Hello and welcome back. I feel very much like a game show host there. So we are picking back up on our tiny, teeny, tiny CRM, and today we're going to be doing the database design because it's kind of one of the important things to get right. Um, as we did yesterday, we had a very basic approach here where we just kind of explored what we actually wanted to do. And that's cool. That's great. We've kind of got this bit working over here, this user and workspace. And what I'm just going to do is I am going to compose a dev. Oh, hiccups over here. That's going to do its business. Let's just open something like Safari over on the other side, and we're going to go to HTTPS, and we're going to go to crm.test. We've got our Laravel application, and yes, I have fixed the login. Let's just zoom out. Just steved@gmail.com, password, and not now. So we've got it. We are set up. We know what we're doing. We have a user. And if we come back to here, we can rename this to dev, and we're going to have a local one over here. So let's just scroll up a little bit, and that's not what I want to be doing. So let's just go into Tinker quickly, and if we just say app models workspace first, we've got a workspace. So then if we get the owner, we get that, and it's all good, and everything's all linked up, and everything's fine, right? We got a user that can create a workspace. They get their default workspace when they sign up, and from there we need to start expanding. Now we can deal with like workspace members later. It's not a vital thing for the kind of initial phase because it just isn't. And workspace invites again can be done later. So what I want to do now is look into like clients. So let's just quit that. And let's go and have a look and see where we got to. So we have a workspace, and now we want our clients. And a client for me is really simple actually. It's a name, it's a website. That's probably about it. There's not going to be a huge amount of information that I need about a client. I just need to know, what do I call them? Where can I find out more information if I need to? That's it. Maybe like the main contact. But we've got contacts, so that's fine, right? Because a client could have many contacts. You could have like a technical contact, a billing contact, operational contact, many things. And hello, everyone in the chat. I am doing good. Gonna do a little bit of Christmas shopping later with the wife. That'll be fun. Yeah, gonna be a good day. So let's start with our client. So we can make a model. And this model will be called client. We are going to create a factory, a migration, and a policy. Kind of like my default things that I like to create. So if we come over to our clients here, zoom in a little bit. And we've already got Pint and everything set up. Everything is all pretty much ready to just work, right? So we can just say, okay, ULID for the ID, and we're going to have primary. So what we want to be able to do is link this back to the workspace. So we can say workspace ID. We're going to index that. We're going to constrain it to the workspaces table, and we will cascade. So we have a client. And here we want the table string name. We want the name, so this could be something like Laravel, for example. And then the table string for the website, this could be laravel.com. And it's just that simple, right? I'm also building a CRM of sorts, but my tech stack is Go and Vue. I love using Go for things, but I don't build that many web apps with it. I wanted inertia. I'm probably going to test inertia 2 a little bit later. So I wanted to make sure that, I use Laravel because Laravel and inertia, right? It's great. Um, you want to offer it as a SaaS. Understandable. I just want to open source stuff, to be honest. And maybe I should look at making money at some point. I am a freelancer now, I guess. So, what other information could be useful to me as a freelancer? I don't need much. I just need to know what client I'm talking about, maybe their website in case they're two with similar-ish names, so I can differentiate. And that's it to start with. So we've got a name and a website. We're going to keep it teeny tiny. It's tiny CRM after all. So let's say that this extends the default factory for the client. Let's do that. Then this is going to return an array of string and mixed. So name, we can just say that this Faker company website, we're just going to do something like this Faker domain name or something. And then the workspace ID, we can just say workspace factory like that. It's very simple. It's very simple, small models. But this is going to help me in my day-to-day, and that's the main thing, right? Build something that's useful that you would use. I would usually use a tool stack, but I really wanted to use Shad CDN with Vue because I want some charts and some fun stuff, and it's just what it is, right? Okay, so our client, what we want to do is we want to clean this up because it's what we do when we write code, right? Leave every file better than how you found it is my rule. So now I can simplify that one. And what I'm going to do is just add the fillable fields here because we are team fillable, not team unguarded. So we got a name, we got a website, and we got a workspace ID. That's all we need on that one. So now we can property string for the ID, property string for the name, property string for the website, although I'm debating about whether the website should be nullable at this point. And we're going to have a workspace ID, a nullable carbon interface for the created app, and the same thing for the updated app. And then what we're going to want to do is say property workspace is workspace. So if we come down here, we can say public function workspace belongs to, and we can just return this belongs to. The related is a workspace, and the funky is a workspace ID. And let's just inline this one. So this returns belongs to, and it's going to return a workspace. Oh. Ooh. Given the fact that everything is a SaaS nowadays, and there's a niche in having an application that can run in an offline mode. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like I can't be the only one bored of having to pay a monthly amount just to do something, right? It gets boring. I love SaaS as a business model, but I'm getting bored of SaaS as someone who actually has to pay for them. Like your monthly outgoings just creep up because everything's a SaaS, and it's frustrating. I love what Basecamp are doing with this once stuff. Like just pay for it once, pay for support. Great. Yes, it's a bigger upfront cost, but in reality, is it? You're going to be paying that on a monthly basis. Right, and a workspace has many clients. So we can add a property up here, which will be an eloquent collection for the client called clients. So workspace has many clients. We are looking pretty good. What I'm going to do, I like to do this every now and then, just add a comment like that. We can just like literally Laravel.com. So instead of having code comments, we actually got database comments. So we just pass through that context so people are aware of what sort of information should be in there, right? Self-host and pay once is nice. Yeah, the self-hosting and local first is really picking up at the minute. Let's just migrate quickly. Right, so we've got our clients. That's great. And clients can have many contacts and many projects. So we need to do the contacts first because a project is typically assigned to a, a client will create a project with a specific contact, typically, is what I see happening. So let's go and do contact, and we want a factory, a migration, and a policy. And I haven't filled in any of the policies yet. This is something that I will do a little bit later. But right now, I'm just going to focus on kind of the base data and worry about the rest a little bit later. There might be some fun to be had when it comes to policies. Who knows? I've been playing around with a new a new SaaS product, funnily enough. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see if we have some fun with that. So the contact table string, we want a name, and it needs an email, and that's pretty much all I need. I'm not going to keep it unique. Unique on the email is not needed here, but table phone ULID for the workspace ID. Actually, no. That should be the client ID, really. Then we're going to constrain that to the clients, and we will cascade on delete. So we've got tidy up going on. And now we can add in this unique constraint down the bottom where we only want to be able to add this email for the client once. The only problem with self-hosted is support. I completely agree. Support with self-hosting is, you've got to be a dev to self-host these days, or you've got to be someone who understands servers enough to debug stuff, right? And hello from LinkedIn. It's good to see you. Go is great because you can embed everything in a single executable and use SQLite DB. You could, but I also have you tried this with a Go application? Try something like pocketbase.com maybe. Okay, that's not a website apparently, but try out Pocketbase. Pocketbase. It's an open source backend in one file. It is built in Go, and I think it uses Svelte or Vue on the front end. It's like Superbase, it's like AppWrite, but it's just a single executable, and it's amazing. It is so fun to work with. It's got authentication, it's got real-time database file storage, an admin dashboard, and this funky little gopher. Look at those eyes go. How cool is that? I want to figure out how to do that. Right, but anyway, we are getting distracted as we do on the Steve live stream because there's so much fun stuff out there, right? So, email and a client. So, a contact, we've got a name, and we've got an email. This could be something like, let's just add comments, right? So, our comment is Taylor Otwell, and the comment for the email is going to be taylor@laravel.com. For example, have I spelled Taylor's last name wrong? I actually don't know. Should we go check? Let's come over to social, down to Twitter, and let's go have a look. Taylor. Yeah, it is one. It is one. See? OTWEL. Yes. We got it right. We knew what we were on about, okay? We knew it. But sometimes you got to check. Sometimes you do have to check these things. All right. I hope you're liking the contrast of light mode over here and dark mode over here, by the way. It's a bit of fun. Just keep your eyes balanced. So we've got a name and then we got an email. That's cool. We're good. What I'm just going to do is save that to the dictionary so I don't have this problem in the future. So let's go to our contact factory. And now we can just leave this file better than we found it. And this extends factory for the contact. Run some Laravel Pint action on there. Inline this because why have it taking up so much space? String mixed. The reason we're adding these doc blocks is mainly for static analysis. So why would we need to do something else, right? Right, so this faker, we are going to unique it this time, and we are going to go for a safe email. And then we are going to go for the client ID, where the client factory. Fantastic. And the model is the contact. That's currently a class string for contact. And there we go. We are good. We are there. If you do hosted version of self-hosted, at least in my experience, SQLite is hard to scale on hosted platforms, and I don't trust ORM that much to have 2 DBs. So, I mean, what I think is useful, like look at something like self-hosting and then using Terso or another kind of database as a service. If you're going to self-host, use a database as a service. So you don't have to manage backups and stuff yourself. Make your life easy. I mean, come on. Self-hosting is fun until it goes wrong. Right, so we're going to want that again. So let's copy that. And we're just going to do that. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Simplify that and give ourselves some breathing room. And we got the ID. So let's go and add in these fillable fields now. Array in string, name, email, and a client ID. So this view has ULID, but we're also going to use notifiable because it's got an email on it. We might not want to email contacts directly, but we may. Who knows, right? Thank you, Nuno. Always good to see Nuno coming on board. I've been loving your streams recently. It's really fun watching someone else code other than myself. Just see how other people think about these problems, right? It's so frustrating sometimes when you work remotely and you haven't got anyone to bounce these ideas off. Live streams help you get that. So let's get a string name. We're going to have a string for the email, and we're going to have a string for that client ID. Then we're going to have that nullable carbon interface over here for the created app. And we're going to do the same for the updated app. And then we can say property, client. That's done. Nothing needs casting. All we want to be able to do now is add this public function client over here, add a belongs to, and return a this belongs to. Related is a client, and the foreign key is client ID. Let's just add a quick inline belongs to here for that client. It would be really, really nice, and I might have to have a look at doing it myself. Like these inline comments are great, but is there a attribute for it? Because that would make me feel like I'm using modern PHP, right? So like I can do an array shape from JetBrains, but that's not what I want. I want to be like, okay, so this is a a var for something, or this is a type for something, and it'll be really handy just to be able to do that. And then down here, I could do like a belongs to, and passing in that client. That would be just a lot nicer, right? Would that not be nice? That would be cool. If you're watching still, let's make that happen. I'm happy to work on that PR. 100% happy to work on that PR. So let's come back over to the client now. So client has many contacts basically. So public function contacts has many, and we return this has many. The related is going to be a contact, and the foreign key is going to be like client ID. So instead of having to do return has many, I could just do an attribute. That would be beautiful. Contact. Most apps won't ever outgrow SQLite. Yeah, especially when you're like 80% of applications don't need the scale they think they do, right? I mean, I've worked at so many startups in the past, and they're all like, "Oh my god, we need to use microservices. We need to use this," and it's like, for what traffic? Like you're getting maybe 1,000 hits a second. Like the built-in PHP server can handle that. Don't worry about it. Right. Okay. So client has many contacts. Contact is done. Serverless Postgres in AWS Aurora is amazing until you have to pay for it. AWS pricing can just kill you. How to kill your business in 1 month. Sign up for everything serverless on AWS. Right, okay, so project. Now we want a factory migration and a policy. Yeah, like I can't wait for Laravel Cloud just so I don't have to deal with AWS ever again. Like, come on. Who's going to go to all that hard work if someone's already done it for you, right? Because all you're going to do is, oh, okay, I want to create a K8 cluster and I want to auto scale it with these rules and I want to be able to do this and do that. And oh, wait, that's a pain to manage. I've got to then kind of maintain and manage that. And who wants to do that? Okay, I'm getting carried away with myself. String name projects. We're on projects. So a project is just like something that you're going to work on together. Your project could contain multiple different things or multiple phases. Sometimes I think they make UI intentionally bad so more startups can be creative. Yeah, probably. It's like, have you ever tried to read AWS documentation? That is so hard to read. Like figuring out what to do, and when it's just loads of different 3-letter acronyms, and it's just like, okay, I want SEM to use SQS to use S3 to then go over and do this data lake, whatever they call it. It's just like, my God, can't we just use words, people? Right, okay, so a project has a name. I'm going to add a table text details that is nullable. And then down the bottom down here, I like to go foreign ULID. This is for a specific client. So I can index it, we can constrain it to clients, and we're going to cascade it. Now, we're also going to want contacts. So when you start a project, you might not know who's going to be the main representative from that company. So let's make that nullable. We will index it, we'll constrain it to the contacts, and we will cascade on delete. So this client from that contact, this contact from that client may be the person in charge of this project, right? And they, while you're scoping out the project, you might not have that dedicated person yet. So making that nullable helps. Then we've got some details for kind of, let's write down a little bit of information, the scope or the spec, whatever it might be about this project. And give it a name. This name could be something like, I don't know, new web app for Laravel, or um, Laravel Cloud SDK in PHP. It could be any number of things, but they will have a state. And we will look at state machines here. So we are going to have a status and we will have a default. But first, we need to create an enum. Enum. Right, so let's go to directory and let's say we want to create enums for projects. And this is going to be a status. This will return a string. So let's, okay, look, like Copilot just knew what I wanted there. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we've got pending. I'm not sure if constraint actually adds an index. This references column, index name, on table, before last, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't actually know. Create a foreign key constraint on the column reference. No, I don't think it actually creates an index. I think it just creates that kind of the foreign key. Whether that's an index or not, I'm not 100% sure. Foreign ID 4. I don't know. I think you can do like a foreign ULID 4 or something, like a foreign ULID, foreign ID 4. So this foreign ID 4 just accepts a model and a column. And that's fine, but I don't like to have my models referenced in my migrations. It feels like I'm binding things in the wrong area. Like the migration is a schema and the model is the ORM. Those two things got to live somewhat separately in my mind. Like the schema is the schema. It's how I'm molding and shaping a database over time. And the model is just that the current representation of it. So to me, it works like this. Okay. I mean, I suppose I could do something like, I don't know, client. Is there like a table or get table? I don't know. Maybe get table name would be cool, right? Does that actually exist? No. Okay. Let's just stick with what we were doing. Stop distracting me. I do like verbose code. It makes sense. Like when you jump into a project and you've not touched it before, or you're being onboarded onto a project, all of this shorthand stuff is great. But having that verbose information where you can kind of read through it and understand it just makes a lot more sense to me, personally. Oh, right. Let's carry on before I run out of time and all I've done is talk about things that I'm trying not to talk about. I'm trying to talk about this, the projects, the database design, getting it set up. So our statuses, we can have a pending project, an active project, a completed project, or a cancelled project. They're our main states. And other than that, I can't think off the top of my head of any other ones. So I will keep it at that so that the default can be status pending value. Oh, my keyboard was resting on top of my phone, which was awkward. Very awkward indeed. Right, so let's close that down so we can now come over to our project factory over here. And again, let's leave it cleaner than what we found it. So project, fix that up. Return an array of string and mix, and the model is going to be project. That's a class string project, and right. So project has a name. We're just going to give it a random sentence here. The status of the project is going to be this Baker random element where the array is status cases Right, and then we have details. We can just say this, make a real text. Then we will have that client ID. So let's just grab a client factory, and the contact ID is going to be the contact factory. I believe that's everything we need. Client contact details, status, name. We're good. That's simple, right? Status pending without the value. You can. I did not know I could do that. I thought I had to pass a value because I'm setting a string value, but that makes my life easier. Thank you for that. So, right, let's come over to our model now. And again, we will grab that, delete all of that, clean that up, and drop it in, and make this like that. So we've got this use has UL IDs. We've got our fillable fields here so that we can say var array in string. So the project has a name, it has a status, it has details, it has a client ID, and it has a contact ID. That's all that it needs. Isn't there? Yeah, I don't want a database enum. I want a PHP enum. I want to be able to version control the different statuses instead of juggling database enums, which can be an absolute nightmare, from my experience anyway. Your experience may vary. I, on the other hand, have had nightmares about it. So let's do a public function client. This belongs to. I get the feeling that I am personally making something like Copilot worse by using it with my code because I make so many typos, so many mistakes. So we're going to return a belongs to client. Fantastic. And then we're going to want the contact as well. Public function contact belongs to. There we go. It's starting to understand how I write code, which is nice. I like it when things understand how I write code. Because a lot of people are like, why do you do it that way? And it's like, because I want to. So we've got a status for the status. We've got null string for the details. We've got a string for that client ID. And then we've got a nullable string for that contact ID. Then we can say property null carbon interface for that created at, do the same thing for the updated at, and then we can say that the client is the client and that the property null contact is the contact. And breathe. Yes, I need to do casts. I do casts right at the end because if we do casts, it's a protected function which needs to come after the public ones. Because that's what we do here. We do things different. And to be honest, we do things pretty, I'd say, well. Okay, I'm going to say it. We do things well on this channel. This is a clustering return. We may add a string later on, but we're probably not going to. So we've got a status there, got a status there, and we've got a status over here. So what we want to do is underneath all of this, this is like I always put my kind of relations there, then any methods after it. So we can have something like a public function state. This is going to return something later. We're going to get to that. For now, we're just going to say void. Have I tried Barry's IDE helper? Yes, I have. I prefer just to do it manually. I don't know why. I just like this kind of. I feel like I'm crafting it the way that it makes sense in my mind, and not just relying on that automated process. And yes, it will create lots of cool files and meta things for me, but I like to know it's been done. not leaving it up to an automated process. This is what I like to do. Obviously, I can go through and add methods. We can do like okay, let's add that method. It's going to return a belongs to client, and we'll just say client. Yeah, I could do something like that quite easily, but I don't want to be honest. Yeah, I've got it to write to the class files, the model files before as well, but they don't always overwrite each other. Sometimes they just start extending and it gets messy, which is why I stopped using it. Okay, so now let's just migrate. We have got projects, we have got contact, we are in a good position. So what we want to do here is right. What shall we do next? What I want to make sure I'm doing is that my appearance, I want to use, let's just say use custom font, and we're gonna go for like 18. Apply, bam, there we go. Much easier to see on the stream now, right? Right, okay, so we've got our models and everything's all fantastic. Let me have a quick drink. You kind of forget how much you talk when you're live streaming. Like, I feel like it's non-stop. And I apologize if you're listening to me and you're just thinking, just write some damn code, Steve. But, you know, here's what it is. Right, okay, so that's all of our models created. So close all of those tabs. And that's our main data model, right? We've got a user who signs up. And I'll walk you through the process. I'm Steve. I've got a business called Lila Fuchsias, and I want a workspace for that. I've got a client. We'll call them Google. Well, yeah, I suppose if you just wanted to see code, you'd read a blog. But I tend to write a lot of extra words in my blogs as well. So maybe it's just me. I'm an oversharer. And my client, I might start a project with. Let's say I'm going to rebuild Android in Rust. And my contact there is Blippy. I don't even know why I thought of him. But I'm working with Blippy to create a new version of Android in Rust for Google. And then I want to send an invoice later, right? So what goes into an invoice? Do I want to do invoices yet? I feel like invoices need to come later once I've got the main kind of flow going. So yeah, we'll do it that way. We are going to do it that way. So we want to be able to create clients, and the way that we create clients is usually with a form. We might have an API later, and I might want to build a Raycast extension because I use Raycast quite heavily. I use it so often. Like I use lots of color stuff. I'm pretty sure I got a convert date where you can just literally copy it to different versions, and it's super handy to have something like that. So for me, working along, I get a Slack message. I can just quickly go to Raycast and I can just go to my CRM, and it's good. I can go add a new client through Raycast without kind of leaving the context of my keyboard because I spent a lot of bloody money on this keyboard. I'm going to make the most out of it. So we want the whole point of me going through that random kind of verbal diarrhea there is that what we want to be able to do is have repetitive behavior for creating these resources, whether it's through UI, CLI, TUI, GUI, FYI, any of the UIIs. We want to do things in a repetitive manner. We want to guarantee the end result so that we can unit test. We want to feature test. And we want to know that if we call this class, this action, this command, this service Steve UI. Steve UI is literally just JSON, pure JSON output. That's all it is. But if we want to have this repetitive way, we want to be able to test it in as many ways as we can. Capping out. I'm going to stop reading what you're saying, Kat, because you're just going to make me read something silly out next. I'm just not ready for that. Now, typically, I would do things slightly differently. I would jump down that domain-driven design, CQRS madness that I absolutely love. But this is tiny CRM. We don't need that, right? We want actions. And Nuno did an amazing video on this. Brent did an amazing video on this. I'm going to do a mediocre live stream on this. Actions are handy, okay? So what we want our action to do, we want to be able to, if we have a look at this, what we've got is we've got kind of this account management stuff over here. That's that one area over here. And then we've got this part over here, which is more about like the client management. And then we've got the projects over here, which is kind of like that work management, right? But these are our main areas, and invoices will be kind of like something else a little bit later on that's got additional aspects and parts to it. But if we're going to scope this out, we've got kind of workspace management, client management, work management, or project management. So that's kind of how we want to structure it when we're creating our actions. So let's just go ahead and say that this is workspace management. Then we got something for later. And then over here, what we're going to have is client management. Just shift that up so it's got some breathing room. And then down here, we have just got that project or work management. So we've got these three, ignoring that, we've got these three main areas that we want to focus on. So down here in actions, we're just going to have like projects, workspace, project. Oh, let's just rename that actually. We're going to call that project, workspace, and client. That's how we're going to categorize anything that we do. Is it for the client, the project, or the workspace? Yeah, so invoices will be billing. So we'll add that as a kind of a placeholder. And what we will do is we are just going to say, let's drop in a git keep for now. And we will just drop that in there. Drop that in there. And we're just going to drop it on all of them so that we keep that structure. Let's close all of those. So that's how we think about this, the kind of the actions and the domain without going into domain driven design. We are looking at a client action, a project action, a workspace action. So what we can do, we could even do a refactor down here. So create default workspace. We could push this off to an action. Nothing stopping us doing this, right? And then jobs, observers. We've got two deferrable things going on there. That's all fine. That's all working. So let's focus on the client, okay? No, we're not going to focus on the client. We're going to refactor this. This makes sense to me. We're going to refactor this create default workspace job. So this workspace, we're going to do a new action. And this is going to be called create workspace. All it needs to do. So we can say public function construct. And we're going to want, again, we're going to want that private read-only database manager as database. Actions are handled. You can call it execute, you can invoke it, you can do whatever you want to do with it, but there aren't tests yet. This is all very much kind of just random crap I'm throwing together. Right now, we're just going to return a void because that's what we want to do. So what we will do is just fix that whole file quickly and we'll come back to it. So, hey, Laravel Jutsu, Ludovic, my good friend. So now we can actually delete that git keep because it's not needed. So what we want to really do here is we're going to take all of that and then we are going to do that, and then we're going to say this database transaction, and then we're going to pass through the name and user. Name and user. That's all we care about at this point, right? It's just, we want to create a workspace for this user with this name. And the workspace doesn't have anything other than that on it, so it's fine. It's all good. So let's make that read-only. Create default workspace. Instead of all of that, I'm using this database manager here. We can delete all of that, remove the workspace, remove that, inject the workspace as an action, and just say action handle where the name is default and the user is this user. That's it. Our job now just defers. And away it goes. Off you go do your business. This will then do it, and it's all good. So I haven't written tests, but we can test. So we can migrate fresh seed. This is going to go through here, and it'll look, creating default workspace, it's done, it works. So we have refactored that. Now we can update the user's workspace. So what we want to do here under workspace is say switch user workspace. So they want to be able to kind of go, okay, I am currently in workspace A, I want to switch to workspace B as my default for this session for now. It's very similar to how Jetstream does Teams, basically. So we've got this switch user workspace. And again, we're going to want that database manager over here. So we can do that. Then we can fix that whole file. And then we can make that read-only as well. So public function handle. For now, we're just going to void it. So let's have a look at this part here. So we want to be able to pass through a workspace, basically. So this will then accept a workspace as a workspace. And we have to say this database transaction callback is workspace owner update attempts 3. It kind of knew what I wanted to do there. That's freaky. So that's going to handle all of that for us. Yes, it might fail, but it's going to fail and bubble up to here, which will then fail as well. So we can remove all of that, remove that bit there. And what we want to inject is that switch user workspace as an action and say action handle the workspace is this workspace. That's it, right? It's all our kind of our job needs to do is trigger an action. There's places where this is going to want to be triggered from a background job. There's places where I'm going to call this from a controller. There's places where a CLI might trigger this. So there's no point me duplicating all of that logic when I know I'm going to need to do it. Duplicating logic is just pointless, right? Why would we do such a thing? So we've done those refactors and we are pretty happy so far, right? So let's say git status, add all of that. We're going to git commit -am, and we're just going to say sure, doing some modeling and refactoring. Push. Right. Let's just quickly run our test suite and see how broken things are. One failed, profile test. What's going on today? Right, okay, so failed asserting that because I've added the deleted that, isn't it? So let's go have a look at that test and see if we can fix it quickly. Profile test. Over here. Assert session has no errors. Okay. Assert redirect, not a problem. Assert guest. Okay. So assert okay, instead of doing it that way, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this in an expect. So we're going to expect that user fresh deleted at not is null. To not to be null. That should, I think that's it. So this fresh should give me a new user. Blah blah blah. Compose a test. Let's see if I know what I'm talking about. Apparently I do. Handy. Git add, git commit -am, sure, fix profile test for soft deleted users. Right, okay. So yeah, actions are basically, they're just composable business logic. And sometimes you do a lot of things in them. Sometimes you just do the one thing, and other times you just chain them, in which case just open a pipeline and chuck loads of actions in there. Don't overflow your action because it makes sense. Actions should be descriptive. Your action should say, this is what I expect to happen, not this is my whole process. Just I want to, like I have up here, create a workspace or switch a user's workspace. Very granular because you can pipeline them, especially if you've got that handle method. Right? It works. Why not? Okay, so moving on because I've been streaming for just under an hour. I'm probably going to do another about what time is it? Maybe another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to probably go Christmas shopping with the wife and baby because that's fun. Okay, so I was talking about clients. We want to be able to create a new client, and we're going to go for a very similar kind of naming convention. And Nuno mentioned it really well. It's kind of like you've got a verb and a resource. This one, a little bit different because I need to be specific. But create workspace, create client, create invoice, create project. Very kind of creational, right? Let's delete that. So let's go ahead and say, let's create a client. Now, again, we can make this final read only. We can say public function construct here, and then what we want to do is say a private database manager as a database. Then we're going to say public function handle, returns a void. So we can open up our client and go say, okay, we need a name, a website, and a workspace. You can say string name, string, or let me create clients. I mean, I think website could potentially be nullable personally. So I might do that there, come over to client, and this website can be union type. So this bit can be a null string website and a string for that workspace. Ooh, can't spell today, workspace. Okay, so this database transaction, the callback is going to be client query create. The attributes do this, and this could be attempted up to 3 times. Client name. We can do website, and we can do workspace ID. And that's pretty much all you need to do there, right? It's very simple. This is how we create a client. It is a set of instructions. Now, if I wanted to do more, like when a client is created, I want to trigger an email, I'd break this out into something else. And if I needed any more arguments, I would push that into a payload, into its own class. I know Nuno does like attributes as an array, but that just, to me, it doesn't, I don't like that personally. I could do like, if I was to do it the way Nuno did it in his video, I would want to do something like this. I would want that array shape in place. Just a different way people code, that's all. Want to have a nice trick? Yes, I do. I'd love an awesome trick. I am an old dog, and they say you cannot teach old dogs new tricks. So hit me with it. Create a protected function and call it whatever you want. Okay, so protected function, whatever I want. Move that client query into there. Then this callback is this function. I mean, yes, I can do it that way, but I feel like I'm creating a method for no reason then, right? It's a nice way to do it. I don't know if that's kind of like my style. It is cool though, Cat. Definitely a cool way to do it. Where was I? Creating a client. That is all good. Okay. Where am I going? What am I doing? I'm doing actions. Those actions are now working. Why don't we just look at doing a test, right? I don't do tests on these very often because I'm always kind of pretty just trying to get a point across. Git keep. There we go. There's feature tests here. Let's just remove that example. I'm just going to remove that. Okay, so in our feature tests, we can also make the function you made a closure. Okay, I'm confused. Maybe I'm just not getting enough coffee right now. Okay, so we have got billing, clients, project, and workspace. We've got auth there already, but we don't need auth actions right now. So let's go and say, let's do a workspace feature. We've got a billing feature, client feature, and a project feature. So project feature. So what we want to do here is a feature test up here is going to be something like, we want to make sure that when a job is triggered or a user is registered or a workspace is created, certain things happen. We're not unit testing, we're feature testing here, but we've got a specific name to them. What feature are we testing? So let's go for like a workspace, for example. We've got these. I usually delete these and rewrite them for the way they work for me, but we'll keep them for now. So under workspace, I would do something like, if I want to test this whole workflow of observers, users observed, and then this kind of default workspace is created, I'd be down here and I'd say, okay, workspace, let's go and do a new test file. And we are going to test the, I don't know, the user observer test, something like this. So let's just declare some strict types up here. And we want to test. What do we want to test? When a user is created, a background job is dispatched. That's our first thing that we want to test against, right? So up here, we want to do something really simple. We just want to say bus fake. So that, like that, and then we want to say, okay, so user factory create. Let's just kind of go along with it. App models user, fantastic. So our user's been created. Okay, so apparently it wants to autocomplete everything for me. So let's just let it. And let's just compose a test. Let's see if it got it right. No, it did not. Job was not dispatched. Okay, I get the feeling that in my user observer, because I'm kind of deferring this, that it might be breaking something. So let's test that that thought process. Let's just do that. And now do it again. Yes, because it was deferring. I don't know if there's a way to kind of test deferred things nicely. So I would just kind of remove that for now. It was probably just an over optimization. To be honest, I don't need to defer a background job. This is, again, something really simple for me to play with and use to make my life easier. So our command is that, and our fallback is this. And yes, named arguments are the best. So this can actually be probably fix that whole file. Awesome. This can then be static and it will return a Boolean. And a user up here, let's just, that's a user. There we go. Just to understand, I wonder if there's loads of yes, go to YouTube channel, youtube.com/JustSteveKing. It's up there. Go watch it as and when you wish. I think in test image dispatches are done in line. I thought, no, you still got to fake it, right? You still got to fake to if you want to make sure that the background job is actually dispatched. But then what we can also do is, test that a default workspace is created for a user, for example. We're just going to give it that as a name. We want to test that happens. So we're not going to fake the bus this time. Instead, we're going to get this user, we're going to create a user. And that works, that will actually work and it will happen. Yep, okay, cool. So what we want to do is now you're meant to prepare for your test, action your test, and then kind of confirm or assert. That's kind of, there's probably a better way to define that, but I feel like up here I need to do a, expect something like workspace query count to equal 0, right? I want to make sure that there's no workspaces to begin with, and that by doing this, I've now got 1. That's kind of, I suppose, a bit of a dumb test. It's okay, I created this and I now got 1. That's great. I could dive in and say, let's just check the ownership. But if that is all that has happened, then that one workspace must belong to that user, right? Or am I wrong? What do you think? What do you guys think? Let me know. So a default workspace is created for a user. So you could do something like, okay, query first, and then you could go, okay, so we've got that, and we've got, the user ID to equal, let's just drop that in there. We could say user, and then we could say user ID, and maybe we run it, and maybe it works. I don't know. That's all good, right? We know that that's working. That belongs to that user, and everyone is now a happy chappy. So we want to check that that belongs to that, and that I suppose I can just change this instead of an and we can say that like the names are equal default, for example. So run that again. The default workspace is created for that user. Perfect. Not too shabby. And what you could probably do is say, okay, and I want to make sure that the user fresh workspace ID not to be null. Expecting null not to be null. I don't even know what that's trying to say. But okay, we're just going to leave that there. So we're testing these actions, we're testing the workflows, and we're testing that these things happen and everything's all good. And then in our unit tests, what we can do is we can do something like a, I don't know, workspace in there. Let's come down to here. I actually do database tests in my unit tests. A unit test is literally you're testing a unit of something, whatever that might be. So in my unit test, I still want to be able to access the database, right? So workspace, I want to test the actions. So the create workspace action test. So create workspace action test. So down here we can say declare strict types, and we can say test the workspace action will create a workspace. Now it's not actually returning anything with this action, so we will have to do something like an expect workspace query count to equal 0, like that, before we actually work with this action. So then we can know, okay, so let's do something like a before each, let's just say that this action equals, is this going to work? Resolve, create workspace. Import that class. There we go. So what we can do is say this action handle name is test. Maybe we need to create a user. Yeah, we want to have a user at this point, right? I wonder if there is a way that I can fake the database. Is there a way I can do that? DB fake. I don't want to fake do that. Transaction. I don't really want to do anything like that. What I want to be doing is just saying, okay, so if I try and do this, would it be successful? Oh, this action handle. Okay, that's bound to fail because of the ULID stuff and the user not existing, right? Like, that's going to fail. Yeah, SQL issue, as I expected. Stop it. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line under that there, and I'll kind of come back to that. A cert database has. You could check for ownership. I guess checking for ownership could work here. So how could I effectively unit test this? I want to do something like it'd be really cool, like just if I could do like a transaction fake, and it just doesn't really do anything. It's just, was a transaction attempted? Am I trying to do a transaction? So yeah, I think there might be a way to do like a disable. I thought there was like a disable foreign key checks or something that you could do in tests. I really cannot remember. Do you really want to mock the DB? No, I don't want to mock the DB. I just want to find a nice way to test an action as a unit test. Like, does this action start a database transaction? Something like that. Like that would be super handy. Just because I've already got a feature test testing that the action and the transaction work, right? Technically, I don't need a unit test if I'm honest. So I'm just going to delete it. I don't need it. I'm overthinking things. Okay, so let's just git add all of that. What have I got to push up? Git commit as I am, and we're just going to draw example test for creating workspaces. There we go. Fantastic. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it from a database perspective and getting Laravel pretty much ready. The next steps are very much, okay, let's start building up like some routes and some controllers and some views and start getting some of this action working. And then that will lead us into building other actions and start triggering things. And then we can look at the state machine side. But for now, hour and 15 minutes, it's 11:45. I need to go Christmas shopping with the wife. I'm going to call that a day, a successful day. So stay awesome. Don't forget to like if you like the video, comment if you got feedback, subscribe if you want to be notified. The YouTube deal. It helps me out. I'd appreciate it, especially now that I'm a freelancer. Like, I gotta do things a bit differently because this is now my job. So thank you very much. That is all pushed up. That is github.com/JustSteveKing slash, I think it's simple CRM or tiny CRM, one of the two. Tiny CRM. Thank you very much. Stay awesome. Catch you later. And yeah, see you next week is my next stream. So thank you very much.